This is a virtual presentation for the 2013 Conference on the Constructed Environment, held on the 4th and 5th of October 2013 in Lisbon, Portugal. The conference stream is Environmental Impacts, and this presentation is called Projections into the Natural World, a Light Pour, and Your Expansive View. On behalf of Kyungju Chun, my name is John Stanislav Satter. I'm a lecturer in architectural technology and design at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. Although embroiled in an extended period of economic uncertainty, the environmental crisis continues to loom large in collective consciousness. But while reducing emissions and ecological footprints have become part of a way of doing business for many, a shift towards a less harmful and even ecologically beneficial way of living remains a work in progress. Between the invisibility of our environment and the vastness of the planet, the task seems difficult to imagine. For philosopher Timothy Morton, the imagination is key to thinking ecologically, and the problem of scale presents its biggest challenge. For Morton, a weakness in current thinking around sustainability is its being mired in issues of localization and smallness, whereas the entire concept of ecology requires that one think big. Recalling the Earthrise photograph taken on board Apollo 8 in 1968, Morton notes that it was this first detached image of the Earth as a totality that gave rise to the environmental movement of the 1970s. It afforded us to see ourselves as part of something very large, just as it offered us the opportunity to see ourselves as interconnected with and indistinguishable from our environment. Earthrise opened up the possibility of thinking on a global scale for the first time, of thinking big, that for Morton is essential to thinking ecologically. In design, the ecological argument often focuses on material efficiency. An increasing array of agencies monitor and grade our material world in terms of resource use, recyclability, embodied energy, and toxicity. Digital simulation is enabling artifacts that use less materials and require less energy. Materials science is developing materials with properties which never previously existed. Reducing, reusing, and recycling similarly focus on the material aspects of the ecological crisis. Although noble in aspiration, and certainly necessary, such approaches fail to address the more fundamental issue, our relationship to our environment. They also are mired in the local and the small, and as such continue precisely the thinking that Morton argues we need to move beyond if we are to think ecologically. Art, for Morton, has the capacity to offer a challenge to our thinking and can move us beyond the local. Perhaps art can also offer a possibility for another material ethos, one that challenges the imagination to move beyond the local and the small. The works of Tara Donovan, Takajun Yoshioka, and Danae Stratu employ mundane materials rarely associated with artistic production, such as buttons or polypropylene drinking straws, to create the illusion of natural materials and phenomena, and in so doing, to challenge our sense of scale. In Donovan's work, styrofoam cups become clouds in this untitled piece from 2003. Shirt buttons become coral reefs, as in Bluffs from 2006. Drinking straws become fog, is in Haze from 2003. And Plastic Cups become a landscape of ice in this untitled work from 2006. Through these works, Donovan transforms objects that are iconic of our disposable culture into ecological experiences. In Yoshioka's work, feathers become snowflakes in Snow from 2010, and drinking straws become fog or ice in the Waterfall exhibition in 2011. In Stratu's work, waterproof membranes, fog machines, and water create an uncanny experience of an expansive, frosty landscape in Ice Songs of 2010. These works conjure frozen moments of ephemeral natural phenomena. They transcend the scale imparted on them by material and setting. Straws dissolve into haze just as haze dissolves into the gallery itself. Materials are used not for mechanical function and suitability, but for their distance from the intended outcome. These works take materials beyond efficiency by performing material alchemy, transforming drinking straws, plastic cups, and styrofoam into something else. Two commissioned installation projects by our practice, little wonder, were motivated by concerns with our relationship to the natural world. Through an elusive approach to materiality, shifts of scale, and shifts of order, these projects aim to capture our imaginations and thereby create an awareness of the natural world. In 2012, Interface commissioned Little Wonder to create an installation responding to their Urban Retreat carpet collection. Interface is known for its easily assembled and recyclable modular carpet tiles. In 1994, after reading Paul Hawkins' The Ecology of Commerce, Interface founder and chairman, the late Ray Anderson, staked out a new environmental position and vision for the company, which would drastically change its production processes and its product life cycle. Dyes, fibers, adhesives, and backing materials were all reconsidered based on recyclability, energy efficiency, and toxicity. The company now uses recycled nylon as a raw material and aims for a complete closed-loop cycle with no fresh raw materials. Interface is currently interested in naturalist Everett Wilson's concept of biophilia. In biophilia, Wilson argued that having evolved as a species outdoors, there is a, quote, inherent human affinity to affiliate with natural systems and processes, unquote. And our sensory perception is primed for this purpose. In The Ecological Approach to Visual Perception, psychologist James J. Gibson claims our perceptual system evolved in relation to our survival in the environment, and it is thus attuned to threatening or advantageous environmental features. Psychologist Stephen Kaplan similarly observes that as perceiving elements of the natural world, such as animals or environmental conditions, was essential to our survival, they remain, quote, innately fascinating for us. Mindful of this, Interface developed the Urban Retreat carpet tile collection around a palette of colors, patterns, and textures, thematically based on natural materials, moss, bark, and stone. Our practice, Little Wonder, was among 6 designers asked to each develop an installation based on one of the 3 tile themes for an installation launching the Urban Retreat collection at an art gallery in Melbourne, Australia. Each installation was confined to a prefabricated 2.4 meter by 1.2 meter by 0.5 meter medium density fiberboard frame, and primarily used carpet tiles from the assigned theme as a material. Interface provided Little Wonder with 2 sets of tiles from the bark theme of the collection, one 3-dimensionally tufted to resemble tree bark in color and texture, and another in a uniform 1 centimeter gray grid. We proposed that the urban retreat be a journey into the space of the frame. Inside, one would immerse oneself in the imaginary space of a dense primordial forest. There, one might imagine smelling the dampness of moss, feeling the crispness of sunlit air, or the chiaroscuro of fractured beams of light captured by the morning mist. The project would not recreate a forest, but would capture both its overwhelming, sublime endlessness and its fragility in the face of human development. We aim to evoke one's imagination and connection to the natural world as if immersed in the forest, and to instill an awareness of its vulnerability. We invited one to momentarily forget where one was actually standing and transform oneself into this forest inside the frame. Closing the open walls of the frame created a box clad in gridded carpet tiles, which resembled a monolithic concrete tower. On one side of the volume, the carpet eroded to reveal a peephole, which invited people to peer into the world within. Inside, a ceiling of carpet yarn became a canopy of foliage. Laminated slices of carpet tile became tree trunks, and a backlit floor became a glowing ground or sky. Lining the box with mirrors created endless reflections which extended the space infinitely. The fisheye effect of the door viewer manipulated the scale of what was seen by widening the angle of what could be seen, but reducing the apparent size of objects. The effect was an expansive view of an infinite space, which seemed both vast and small simultaneously. With Melbourne experiencing a record drought in 2007, the Melbourne Design Festival adopted the theme, "When it rains, it pours." Beginning as early as 2003, large parts of southeastern Australia began experiencing lower than average rainfalls. As reservoir levels dropped through 2006 from 60% to less than 40% capacity, the situation became increasingly urgent, leading to water restrictions, water recycling, and the planning of desalination plants. By 2007, as reservoir levels dipped below 30%, Melbourne faced the prospect of exhausting its drinking water supplies. Within this context, the National Design Centre invited 3 practices to each design a floating water palace. Housed within the confines of a 3 by 4 meter transparent marquee atop a 4 by 6 meter pontoon, each of the 3 palaces would float on the Yarra River, anchored 2 meters off the shore of a park in the center of Melbourne. Little Wonder proposed working with rain. In the long nights of Melbourne's overcast gray and often wet winter, and with a location in the darkness of the riverbank, working with light would be essential. The light of the sky has a long history as an instrument of navigation for seafarers. Both light and electricity flow analogous to water. And light was historically thought to be the disturbance of a great cosmic fluid called ether, akin to waves in the water. We considered this deep historical relationship of water to light, the sea of the sky through which we send our ships and explorers, and the sky of the sea, lit by floating bioluminescent jellyfish. We also considered the technological nature of both these fluids. Just as water flows through the conduits of plumbing systems, light now flows through networks of optical fiber. The project would be a raincloud of light. The installation brought together the unlikely combination of baking cups and optical fiber. Suspended from the marquee structure was a nebulous swarm of hundreds of paper baking cups. Below this illuminated cloud, a dangling plethora of optical fibers were individually crimped by hand, causing hot spots of light along each length of fiber. Beneath the illuminated cloud, the hot spots created a cascade of light, a light pour. The result was the illusion of a rain cloud of light trapped within the confines of the marquee, floating above the river. Analogous to a ship in a bottle, both your expansive view and a light pour miniaturize and contain the uncontainable. By containing, they draw attention to something that otherwise escapes notice, just as when Marcel Duchamp bottled, labeled, and exhibited 50 cubic centimeters of Paris air, he drew our attention to the air and transformed it into an object. Peering through the door viewer of your expansive view belies its physical dimensions, as it evokes an experience of the vastness of the natural world. Yet the fisheye effect of the door viewer also subverts this vastness by miniaturizing it. The result is the illusion of both smallness, as if the interior of the monolith were palm-sized, and vastness. For exhibition viewers, the scale of the internal space was both unexpected and unmeasurable, and they commonly asked just how big the forest within was. A light pour created the ambiguous illusion of a rainstorm of light that had been captured and was floating contained on the river. On one hand, it conveys the immensity of the globe, the infinity of climate, and the power of weather. On the other, it feels as if the pontoon could at the same time be effortlessly blown away, and conveys a palpable fragility of the natural world. Such shifts of scale are akin to the bonsai tree in their miniaturization and containerization of the natural world, as if to render it manageable, knowable, and thus fragile. The act of containing also destabilizes our relationship to the natural world. Instead of us existing within it, the natural world exists within our grasp. Containing the natural world suggests on one hand the magical possibility of weather control, but on the other the potential nightmare of existing outside the planet's natural order. Between these two, it suggests that not only does the environment shape us, but we, in turn, leave our mark on our environment. The indeterminate nature of both your expansive view and a light pour probes the relationship of body to experience. Just as Duchamp's Étant donné invites us to its macabre spectacle, while at the same time keeping us removed from it, both your expansive view and a light pour present us with a spectacular object and an immersive environment of the imagination. With your expansive view, although one's body remains outside the box, one's imagined body is immersed in the environment inside the box. Imagining oneself immersed in this environment, if only for a moment, one becomes a miniature person in an infinite forest. In the case of a light pour, although tethered to the shore, the cloud remains just out of reach of the riverbank. Gazing at the rainstorm of light inside the marquee with one's feet firmly planted on the riverbank allows the mind to wander. Identifying with the cloud, one imagines one's body is floating along with it. Through such meanderings, both your expansive view and a light pour evoke a simultaneous experience of the vast and the diminutive, an intimate immensity, as Bachelard would say, which challenges us to think big. This simultaneous sense of the large and the small is one point of commonality with the works of Yoshioka, Donovan, and Stratou. The material transformation of your expansive view and a light pour is another. Rather than being used for their instrumental functional qualities, industrially produced optical fiber, baking cups, and carpet are used for their experiential qualities. These materials are used to recall a transient moment and concretize it. They seemingly imitate the natural world, but do so with materials that themselves do not. Like the works of Yoshioka, Donovan, and Stratou, while both your expansive view and a light pour are technological products, the technology recedes into the background as the illusions of natural phenomena and experiences are foregrounded. The resulting alchemy blurs the imagery of the technological and the natural and connects them with each other and with us. Although the discussion of sustainability has a tendency to be dominated by technical discussions of energy efficiency, life cycles, and performance, those arguments do little to reconnect us with the natural world. Furthermore, as Timothy Morton writes, ecology necessarily has both experiential and psychological dimensions. Engaging the experiential and psychological dimensions of our environmental imagination is essential to changing our relationship with our environment. Working with scale and material can challenge us to think ecologically. Through juxtapositions of technology, craft, and nature, your expansive view and a light pour shift the order of sky, water, and land. The magic they create alerts us to and instills an appreciation of these very phenomena. Inside a concrete monolith lies an infinite forest of your dreams. A rainstorm of light floats indoors on the river. Your expansive view and a light pour reveal that there is a place for engaging our imagination and dreams in envisioning an alternative future for our constructed living environment.